everyone. Welcome to DBS Insights for Business Leaders series. I am Shantanu Mitra. I am the Global Head for Technology Platforms Coverage within DBS Bank. In today's episode, we will discuss ASEAN E-Commerce Platforms and can ASEAN be the China of this decade? And to discuss this topic with me, we have Sachin Mittal, who heads the research for telecom, media and technology segment within the bank. To just set the context of this, I had a question for you, which is based on your understanding and appreciation of the market and the evolution of e-commerce ecosystem in China. So what are going to be the key success factors?
One distinct feature in ASEAN is that cross-border sales is quite a big portion. Many manufacturers are based out of China. In fact, almost 30 to 40% of the take rate in ASEAN comes from the cross-border sales, and where margins are actually quite thin, almost zero margin. On the other hand, in China, almost 70% of Alibaba's take rate comes from high margin advertising and shopfront fee. And so ASEAN players need to really focus on advertising, which is less than 10% of the take rate right now. And that is the way to be more profitable in the future. Besides that, there are some other challenges, especially around delivery time and the delivery cost. So if you're not in a major city in Indonesia, it may take up to 7 days to get your shipment. And those pricing for delivery fees are also 50% higher, almost 50 to 100% higher than in China. So these are some of the issues which are critical for the success of any e-commerce player.
Do you think that this market or ASEAN region will see the emergence of third-party logistics players who would have their own dynamics because of the nature of the market? And could that potentially lead to some sort of consolidation in that segment with them capturing value? And as associated question is that what do you think is likely to be the steady state of e-commerce players? When do we see emergence of businesses like Etsy, which are very focused in terms of what they promote? When do we see that happen in this part of the world, and what's the steady state?
There's definitely a space for more than one cross-border logistic player, because the market is actually, I don't see why the market will slow down. And the question is, who will get maximum margins? So I believe that cross-border logistic players will kind of take away most of the margins, and in this space, and the e-commerce player will have to live with the lower margins on the cross-border sales. Absolutely no doubt about that. The steady state is vertical champions across e-commerce industry, like as you mentioned, Etsy. How far is that steady state? I think that steady state is at least 8 to 9 years away. And why is that? Because the penetration rate of e-commerce is still too low, only 4% in ASEAN, and it needs to at least double to 10% rate. That's when people start appreciating all these specialty players. Right now, the scale is not enough for the specialty player to cover the logistic costs.
That's very interesting, Sachin. Now, another aspect which we had very briefly touched upon was the payment ecosystem. We understand the disproportionate role that is being played by Alipay and WeChat Pay in China in facilitating the overall development of the e-commerce ecosystem. In Southeast Asia, what are your thoughts? Because first of all, the markets have their own regulatory regimes. They are all separate, and each market has various different payment mechanism. And unlike China, there are certain markets in Southeast Asia where the adoption of credit cards is high, whereas of course there are certain markets like Indonesia where the penetration of credit cards is low. So how do you see the payment ecosystem evolving and the wallets or e-wallets developing in this part of the world?
There's no doubt that e-commerce players can't be profitable with cash on delivery model, as there's a lot of pilferage involved when you collect cash from the customers, and not everything reaches to the e-commerce player. Mobile wallet is the answer. But right now, as you mentioned, there are dozens of wallet players in each country, unlike just 2 big players in China. The question is, how many can really sustain? We think 2 to 3 players can sustain in the e-wallet space, and they will emerge via consolidation in the sector. Because let me tell you one thing, none of the wallet players are profitable at this stage, and none of them will be profitable over the next 2 to 3 years also. For example, right now, number 1 wallet player in Indonesia, OVO, they're merging with the number 4 player Dana, which is Ant Financial backed, along with Grab. So it's a 3-way merger. So there is a race to be number 1 or number 2 in each and every market. And ultimately, there's a big prize for the winner, but there's a big cost to be the winner.
Sachin, thanks a lot. On that note, we will wrap up this episode. To everyone, please connect with us on dbs.com to read the full report that has been written by Sachin and our colleagues from research department. Thanks.